Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. Well, today we're going to talk about self-image, self-awareness. And it's so interesting because I think we go through life sometimes, in reverse gear. And of course, reverse gear has many implications and consequences. But what if you were to look in a mirror and actually see yourself the way that you truly are, not in the reverse? So really fascinating because on today's show, I have the creator of the first optically accurate, non reversing mirror. And I got to tell you, it is unbelievable when you look in a mirror that truly reflects who you are. So let's just jump into the conversation and get started and say hello to John Walter. John, it is such a pleasure having you here on the Mindset Mentor today.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for having me. Really, really happy to be here.
Well, it's super cool. I know the concept of a non-reversing mirror is not brand new, but you were able to perfect it. But before we get into the details and how you perfected it, I'd just love to explain to everybody what exactly is a true mirror for those who have actually never heard of it.
Great, good question. So what it is, it's very simple. It's two mirrors at right angles. Okay, that's what it consists of. But to actually make it accurate and usable is pretty tricky. The main thing that makes a true mirror is the fact that when you look into it, there's no line between the two mirrors. And that's important because the line goes right through your eyes, both of them, as it turns out. And so you can't really use it because eye contact is not really possible. So I have one here just to show the audience. See, and you're actually seeing yourself in this. So it's actually funny because I'm actually zooming or mirroring our picture on the laptop.
Yeah.
Uh, but normally it would look like this, where
Oh,
it's in
I see. So
reverse.
that's what you're seeing with that line, coming down the center. And for those who
It's right
cannot
there.
cannot see the mirror right now, for those who will be listening, you can absolutely have a look on my YouTube channel, watch the video there, and also check out John's website. If you could tell everyone your website, John.
So it's truemirror.com. And if you forget that, just Google True Mirror or Google non-reversing mirror, and I pop right up.
And there he is. Yes, you will see that image, that incredible image. It's really fascinating that you were now able to come up with this concept to perfect, what it is that we see. Because, of course, we're very visual as humans, but oftentimes our perception is skewed, and it can be what we are seeing that actually ties into that skewed perception. So, kind of fascinating. So, I'd love to talk a little bit about when we do look into a regular mirror, how accurate or inaccurate is the reflection that we're seeing?
So the inaccuracy is twofold. It's physical and it's personal. And the physical is the kind of known quantity of this kind of a mirror for since it was first patented in 1887. Oh, it's actually seeing yourself without being reversed. So, for instance, if you looked into a reversing mirror, you're going to see yourself wearing what would appear to be a right hair part,
Hmm.
but in fact, you're actually wearing a left hair part in real life. So when you look in the true mirror, you can actually see yourself with the left hair part. And that's a whole nother story, but that actually matters for the way you're actually presenting yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, Google hair part theory if you want to have more information on that. But uh, the personal part comes into play, and it's just so much more important because the way we actually perceive each other is is both. What you physically look like, but who you actually are, who's actually coming out from your physical features for your face and your eyes especially. And when we talk to each other, we read our faces really, really accurately. Within milliseconds, we can understand what someone's saying and thinking based on what their face is saying. And this is just the base of human communication. So what I discovered is that when you see yourself in a non-reversing mirror, again, it's two mirrors at right angles. Um, you can actually communicate with yourself. Like your eyes and your face actually work properly. And as a correlator, they don't backwards. Like when you look at your face in a reversing mirror, within seconds, your face will stop communicating and you tend to just stare. And that's crazy. It's crazy that this is the version of you that all of us have had of ourselves since childhood. That's everywhere. It's completely unconscious and unchallenged. People just believe it's them. And it's also solitary. You're the
Mm-hmm.
only person that knows you with your features in your face and the communication behind it in reverse. It's just this sort of thing that once you dig into it and you realize that it actually matters, that, wow, I can't really talk to myself properly in a mirror. Well, what am I saying to myself? What is that doing to my self-image? What is it doing to who I think I am and how I'm feeling and what I thought about such and such? And it's just this strange, almost Twilight Zone experience
Mm-hmm.
episode we can make out of this, that everyone has this different image in their head that's actually not real.
Well, it's really fascinating. So, and as you were talking, I was thinking, is it sort of like, a disassociation with the self when you're looking at yourself in a regular mirror? So, what is it, and why is it that we don't really connect with ourselves fully? Do we believe that the person that we see is somebody else, that we are an imposter? I don't like what do you think is really the cause of that distortion?
Um, the first of all, the mechanism for why your face doesn't communicate properly is based on information. The idea that when we actually are talking with each other, you're going to say something, and especially like with the way you smile, the way you actually, your eyes register, like, oh, I understand you. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we do all day long with each other. But if you look at the different sides of the face, the left side, the right side, they're different. They have a different feeling to them. And the idea is when you flip them, you scramble up the message that the person that you're actually saying.
Oh.
And the thing is, you're in a feedback loop with yourself. Like instantaneously, you're going to be seeing yourself feeling and looking different than what's actually you are feeling and thinking, which then causes you to interpret, and then your interpretation and response then shows up on your face and in your eyes, then goes back out to the mirror, comes back, it gets reversed, comes back, you reinterpret it. And this is this feedback loop that's going at probably maybe 50 frames a second. I think that's what our brain can perceive.
Mm.
And so the net effect is that this lack of connection between the actual version of you, which you're actually feeling and thinking and expressing, gets shifted very dramatically to pretty much nothing. Like you tend to just settle down and stare at yourself. Like the vitality just drains out of your face. And you're still there, but now you're kind of communicating with this blank expression. And that, when you talk about disassociation, I mean, it's almost by definition disassociating you. It's dysmorphic. It's by definition dysmorphic.
Mm-hmm.
And so where does that go? What does that do? All these kind of questions, especially when you figure it's going on your entire life and every single time you look in a mirror.
Wow, truly fascinating. I mean, and there's science to back this up, and your background, in math and physics, I believe, right, in computers, have really culminated to create that perfect, mirror, the true mirror. And it's fascinating because you were talking about that feedback loop, right? When we're constantly seeing that in the reverse, it's kind of like the cognitive, function, right? It's sending us a signal. It's almost like cutting the signal and then sending another signal, right? So it's that feedback loop that we're constantly
Yes.
experiencing, and that's really indicative, I think, of how we can operate in life with. False beliefs, limiting beliefs, and the perceptions that we have, and it's exactly sort of the same thing. But this is a physical manifestation of that's tied to that feedback loop, and that's tied to the misperceptions, right? Or even the perceptions that we create out of what
Right.
it is that we're constantly seeing. So really fascinating stuff, and it's so interesting because you would never think that there would be such a big difference. looking in a mirror because it's familiar, right? This is what we're used to. And whoever thought that there was anything different and weird about looking at yourself in the
Right.
mirror? And in fact, I find that, so many people have thought, well, you shouldn't be looking at yourself in the mirror for too long because then you're a narcissist or you're full of yourself or whatever. But there is, an incredible sense of empowerment when you actually can look at yourself in the mirror. And mind you, whether that is a true mirror or a regular, like a reverse mirror, there is a power with being able to connect with yourself. But what I'm hearing, John, is that there is a completely different level of connecting with the true self by
Mhm.
by gazing into a true mirror.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about self-image and beliefs. My understanding of this is that the lack of vitality that you see in your face in a mirror is feeds back into your sense of self. And like I am not the real full version of me. I'm this sort of reduced version that has these that ends up sourcing some limiting self-beliefs, especially when you talk about socially and about how you see yourself fitting in the world. Like it's basically inauthenticity to being fed back to you on a regular basis. How that actually translates is the big mystery because everyone is so different. So the like when you say it's empowering to actually gaze into your eyes and actually connect with yourself because a lot of people don't. And
Hmm.
again, you go back to say, well, why don't you? Well, I think because the mirror long ago fed you information. It's like, it's not worth it.
Hmm.
It's not worth it to connect with myself because I feel uncomfortable at some level because it's inauthentic. But you probably were 10 years old when you thought that. It's not, it's such a manufactured aversion to looking at yourself in a mirror. It's not natural. Like, because kids have all day long, they'll spend time in the mirror, but at some point we start to pull back and go, I don't like that.
Hmm.
And so the most amazing quality of the true mirror is that when you look into it, you go, wow, I actually really like this person that's looking back. Look at that vibrancy. Look at how powerful they are. Look at how present. Look at
Hmm.
how much joy is in the eyes. Because if you're feeling those feelings, you will see them. If you're feeling powerful, you'll see your power.
Hmm.
One time I scared myself. It's like, whoa, it's like, wow, that is like insane because we're human beings. My God, we're the most amazing creature we know of. And yet we have these incredibly limiting self-beliefs that I think are caused partially and over time by the mirror. So
Hmm.
my mission with the true mirror is to kind of fix the interface. So you still have to do your work. You still have to kind of gaze into your eyes and become, connected with yourself and work on your issues and stuff. But now your reflection is more of an ally than a source of doubt and confusion. You can get compassion and empathy and validation from yourself instead of the other. Isn't that
Wow.
wild?
It's so wild. It's so wild. And I had the pleasure of, as you know, John, you walked me through the process of, gazing into the true mirror. And I found it absolutely fascinating because, I mean, I love mirror work. And I've done mirror work for years. But I remember, so I'm talking about a regular mirror, right? And I remember the first time of, doing mirror work, and it was a simple process, and it's actually what I teach my clients now too, is to look in the mirror and you say your name and you tell yourself that you love you. So it'd be Tanya, I love you. And it sounds so easy, like super easy. Like I'm thinking, who could not do that, right? So I remember doing that. I stood in front of a mirror, not a true mirror. I stood in front of a regular reversing mirror and I said,
Yeah.
Tanya, I love you. And I freaked out. I freaked out, John. I had to literally jump out of the view of the mirror. It was the weirdest thing. And it
Right.
shocked me because I couldn't believe that was my impulse was to get out of the mirror because and so I kind of connect with what you say is that, it's this identity thing. And you think, who is that person? Because I didn't like that person and I was judging myself and I had all of these things going through my mind. And it was very strange, so to speak,
Mm,
right? Like that I
mm.
jumped away because I did not want to see myself.
Right. And then my theory is that you try to be that real and deep and authentic, and the mirror is not doing you any favors by kind of, you know, changing the message. And so how do you process? It doesn't compute. This is this is why it's like, mirror work is sure, it's a good idea in principle, but
Hmm.
the interface is faulty. So when you saw it at the self-image summit, did we do that? Did you say I love you to yourself, or
So, it's
did we
interesting. I
record?
don't think I said those exact words, but well, and now, by the way, I have a very different relationship with the mirror, and I can say I love myself and not
Good.
jump and freak out. However, what I found to be the most extraordinary when I use the true mirror is that I was comfortable, very comfortable with myself. And maybe
Mhm.
not initially. It took maybe like, a minute, let's say, right? Because in that first minute,
Mhm.
of course, I'm judging myself, right? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this eye's smaller. And, there's these things going through my mind. But the real fascinating thing is that a few minutes into it, and this did not happen right away, but several minutes into it, oh my gosh, I had such compassion. I had compassion for
Mm.
myself, like this true, incredible compassion. And it felt amazing. And I
Mm.
thought, wow, like that was kind of a polar opposite experience from when I, originally did mirror work and I had to
Yeah.
jump out of the way, right,
Yeah.
to
Right.
truly seeing who I am, but connecting with
Yeah.
that soul, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, absolutely. This is what it's about. And the thing is, you saw compassion. In other
Hmm.
words, your face actually did message compassion to you. You were feeling it, your face was conveying it. And then again, you're in that same feedback loop where you go, oh, and you feel more compassion. Like it
Hmm.
actually deepens and strengthens the feeling, and your face then continues to reflect that. And this is the whole power of this, is that you have a continuous relationship with yourself and your emotions and your feelings. And some of these really, really powerful and positive ones, especially after you've done the work. Like you
Hmm.
said, you've gotten long past the, I'm afraid to say I love that to myself.
Hmm.
And now it's like you just, without even prompting, you felt that compassion and these deeper and higher. And, I believe all the other positive qualities that you've kind of worked on to develop about who you are and what you're about, they're just there. They're just present for you to actually connect with and validate yourself, through them. Like your face suddenly becomes your friend,
Oh,
you
I
know.
love that. That's so deep,
So,
so good, right? So we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take a short break and we're going to talk more about how you can become your best friend. Look at yourself deeply with love and compassion through the true mirror. My special guest today is John Walter. He is the creator of the first optically perfect, accurate non-reverse mirror, which is just kind of like it's a little bit mind blowing when you think about it, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Stay with us, and more coming up here on Sauga 960. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you live your best life. And sometimes, it can be difficult when we don't feel our best and we look in the mirror and we judge ourselves and we criticize ourselves. And of course, we can be our own worst critics. But what if you could look in a mirror and actually love the reflection that you see, the person that you are? Well, we are speaking with the creator of the first optically accurate non reversing mirror that is helping people around the world love the person that they are, to experience themselves actually more authentically and through a mirror. And that's really quite fascinating. John Walter, you are a genius for creating the true mirror as you have perfected it. I understand that, the concept of a non reversing mirror dates back to, the 1800s, right? But what you're now able to do for people is truly life changing. So I'd love to kind of talk a little bit more about your experience with the True Mirror and like how did this come to be? How did you know that there was something not fully authentic when you looked in a mirror at yourself in a mirror?
Sure, that's a good story. How much time we have?
We can always do a
Um,
follow-up show, John. I know there's so much to talk about here, right?
it is fairly simple, but I had been struggling with my mirror image for quite some time, feeling that something was slightly off. And uh, it happened to be I was young. I was probably 22, hanging out on the beach in California at a friend's house at a party, having a great time.
Mhm.
And I walked into the bathroom, and the mirror just shot me down hard and just said, "Dude, you are." I was out there, okay, but I looked terrible, and this big smile I had walking into the bathroom looked terribly fake and
Hmm.
forced and posed. And it's like I must be fooling those people out there because we so identify with this mirror image. I mean, God, it's been with us since we were babies. We really believe that's who we are. And my eyes were just shooting daggers at me like instantly. I'm talking about in 5 seconds. I just threw, five negative hardcore thoughts at me. The biggest one is there's something wrong with you. And it wasn't the first time. I mean, this has been going on, like I said, I'd had struggles, but that something wrong with you was a big part of it. Um, and then I just threw my hands at the mirror and just turned the corner, and there happened to be a double mirror medicine cabinet at right angles to the mirror that I was looking at. And this is the thing, you can do this at home. Okay. You can take two mirrors, thin ones if you have possible, and hold them up at right angles. And this
Mhm.
is what I saw when I saw the medicine cabinet. There's always a line in the middle, and that line is very difficult to actually look past because it goes through both your eyes. But if you kind of look around and try to find yourself behind in this reflection, at the time, I literally did a double take because I saw something in my eyes that I recognized. And what I saw was the sparkle in my eye. And what I recognized was my happiness because I was really having fun. Things were great out there in the party. I was walked in, the smile suddenly, instead of being fake and forced and somewhat manic, suddenly it was warm and genuine and happy because
Hmm.
that was what was really going on. And for the first time, my mirror reflection was reflecting it. And in an instant, like literally the second I saw that sparkle and recognized it, I I said, "There you are," you know, and it was like, "So what? You're three sheets to the wind. You're having a good time." And I started beaming. I literally was like, my smile was huge. I was like, "Whoa," and just like this, and it didn't go away. And then I turned back to the regular mirror, and like it just disappeared again. So the moment was super significant, and as far as I know, brand new, because in this entire time of the mirror being patented in 1887, and there's a bunch of patents since then on various design elements, no one ever talked about that reflects myself properly. It's a completely unknown and brand new concept in the world of psychology and self-image and self-awareness. And to this day it still is kind of it's still just me promoting this idea as, oh my God, it's really you looking back at you and from this mirror, and the other one isn't. you know that's kind
Yeah.
of the origin story.
Oh, okay. I love that story. It's fascinating because you walked in to that bathroom looking in the mirror or catching a glimpse of yourself, and that self-judgment was there immediately. And maybe even to go so far as say a little bit of self-loathing. Right?
Yes.
And then all of a
and and
sudden,
and and how many times it does happen to you or to people in general, and
yeah.
it's like, oh my God, how can you loathe yourself?
I
It's like,
know,
what?
right? I know.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Crazy.
That
So
is like,
crazy.
no one in your life loathes you, and no one, and if you're not in front of the mirror, do you really loathe yourself? It's like
Well,
nuts that this is a
yeah.
very common experience.
We're extraordinary beings, and we are absolutely magnificent. And I think that life sometimes prevents us from seeing that, and it's that interruption, right, with the mirror, in a regular mirror, that cognitive break. It's kind of like that loop, as you were talking about earlier, right? So when you can look in a true mirror and spend time with yourself, because that's interrupted. It's not, you're not getting those brain signals that are saying, this is a wrong message, we're reversing the image. It's like, no,
Right,
it's direct and it's deep and it's personal. And
right.
that's so interesting, because I remember doing the true mirror work, and as I had mentioned earlier, that I had compassion for myself, and that sparkle that you're talking about, in the eyes, I could see that sparkle. And once you see the sparkle, you can't unsee the sparkle. Do you know what I mean? It's there because
Yeah,
now you felt it. And so now you
right.
know what that feels like. And, it was interesting because, and just to give the listeners and the viewers a little bit of context, John and I were at an event, and your most recent event in Toronto, where you had an incredible assortment of your true mirrors, and you were guiding people, through the process of, experiencing, what the true mirror is like. As I mentioned, I had, this incredible sense of compassion for myself. And I sat at a table with a group of attendees at the event, and we were all discussing our experience with the mirror. And one of the ladies, I mean, everyone had these really great, stories. And this one woman said, she looked at us and she said, "How long did you spend in the mirror?" Because she was kind of surprised that she didn't have that experience, right?
Hmm. Right.
Um, and then, fortunately, there was a second day of doing the same work and that same
Hmm.
process. And what I had said to her, I said, "You just didn't spend long enough. You just didn't stay with it long enough." I
Sure.
said, because and I'm saying it through, I said that because of my own experience, because I didn't feel that compassion right away. I was still
Right.
stuck in the judgments a little bit, like, oh,
Hmm.
this looks crooked, this is not right. But if you stay with it, that, I think, is where the magic happens. What can you say to that?
Absolutely. And first of all, back to your other thing, once you see the sparkle, you can't unsee it, partially because it grows. It's like, whoa,
Ah.
it's actually even more. And then you get this light of recognition. And the point is that that's light, that sparkle is actually light with meaning. And we are conveying information with that for why we're smiling. And that is a communication tool that we use all the time with each other. And what makes it genuine is the meaning behind the smile, and that meaning is carried by the eyes. So when you flip it, you lose the meaning, which makes the smile look kind of fake, which makes you stop. That's the mechanism.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But back to what you're saying about the spending time, it's also that there's an on switch. Okay, I like to analogize to an electric bike. Here's an electric bike, and you say, God, it looks kind of big and bulky and kind of heavy, and you get on, and it's like this doesn't feel like a very good bike. I don't really get it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm crooked in it, so it's even worse than And then I say, no, there's a little switch there, and the switch is basically to look in your eyes and engage, try to communicate, and the best expression again is your smile, which will create that light in your eyes, which will then, because it looks natural, you'll smile back, and that's where you suddenly go, oh, I get it. And then once you have the sense of, oh, this bicycle now actually goes really fast, suddenly these emotions like compassion just show up and stick around and deepen. And then the other ones and the other ones, and it's like, here it is, like 40 years after I first saw this experience, and
Mm-hmm.
when I look at my eyes in the true mirror, I just see myself today. Where am I at right now? What's going on now? And it looks similar to how it's been, for the last 40 years, but the message is just the normal me that's going through my normal stuff. And it's just so much more rich and deep and powerful and enlightening. I'll actually tell myself stuff about who I am and how I am, from my true mirror reflection. And then I go back to the regular mirror, and it's just like, it's the same old, same old. Yeah, yeah, you know.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So then, do you think that having a true mirror is helpful for people who are really stuck and challenged with the self judgments?
Uh,
The critical eye, right? The always, beating up on ourselves.
yeah, yeah. Look at it this way: the way the person is with themselves probably has like zero correlation with the way the person's friends and family interact and like and love them. And in other words, it's completely in their heads. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
if you're true story, if you're a horrible person, you're going to see horrible things in the true mirror. But most people are not that way. Most people are generally good people and have good qualities, and they're imperfect, but they're still beautiful. They're, I mean, there's all these kind of layers that we actually, when we talk with each other, we absolutely compensate for any of the perceived physical flaws, and we go to the personal, and the whole thing is this big wrapped up thing that especially people that know you, that like you, that love you, will see all sorts of qualities that you never get to see in the reversing mirror. Instead, you see someone that's critical, that you pick apart your flaws. You have, some slight, you have a pimple, and you think that's all people are going to see. Um, but deeply, the structures in your mind that when you make eye contact go so far deep into like this sense of self, which has kind of had this warped thing going on again since childhood, especially like during formative years, like during adolescence and all that stuff, where the mirror is just telling you one thing, and everyone else is got normal faces, normal sparkle, normal smiles, but you don't. So must be something wrong with you. And just the translation to what your actual relationship to yourself is being continually messed with by this reverse mirror. And so, yes, the true mirror is designed to absolutely address that. And once you have that, so if you get one and you have it in front of you, say, okay, let me go and relearn who I am and who I am being. Okay. Because it's
Mm.
not just the way I'm staring at the world, it's the way I'm actually interacting with the world. How do I show up? Who am I when I'm smiling? Who am I when I'm passionate? Who am I when I'm concentrated and focused, and let your true reflection educate you on these really incredible positive qualities, and then you can believe in yourself, and then you don't see your flaws. You see basically your beingness, which is just the essence of the thing that people find appealing and attractive about you. And you can
Mm.
kind of start letting go of this negativity that is probably just coming from you and your mirror image. I mean, again, it's crazy that this is just the norm for most people, everyone.
Wow. It truly, that, I mean, it's so profound, because the way that we feel about ourselves really dictates the quality of our lives and how we show up, right, in all of those different scenarios, and sometimes creates that facade. And that it really creates a lot of blocks in our lives when we're not living authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can now really connect with ourselves on that deep core level,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a spiral. Things start to spiral in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
and can take us to the next level of living to our full potential and
Right.
starting to remove some of the barriers and the blocks that we have. Because even if we, look at the non-physical, our blocks and our perceptions, again, like, I mean, I know I personally had a ton of limiting beliefs, right? And I've learned to
Mm-hmm.
reprogram my mindset, optimize my mindset. And that's now why I teach other people to do that. But it's the same thing. It parallels the physical, blocks, right? When we look in
Mm-hmm.
that mirror, but they're all, correlated, and they all
Mm-hmm.
impact our lives, in such a huge way, and how we show up for others, how we show up for ourselves, the beliefs that we
Mm-hmm.
have, what we believe is possible for us, or what we falsely believe is not possible for us.
Right, right. No, I hear that. That's amazing. Because again, it comes back to you need to do the work on yourself to get past limiting self beliefs, And once you do, you go, wow, look at the power of this. Look at this is, I'm so much more than what I used to think I was and what I was capable of. Um, and so my idea of the true mirror is it's another tool in your toolkit of self affirming and developing actions that you still need to take, but it's a tool that suddenly can amplify and validate and let you just go, oh, I can totally let go of that limiting self-belief because it's not here. You know, if,
Mm-hmm.
like, like if you see compassion for yourself, just think about, of course I'm compassionate with other people, because that's how you are. You see these qualities that you end up sharing with yourself that make it so much easier to be those qualities out to the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the idea.
Oh, I love that. So good. All right, we're going to continue the conversation here on Sauga 960. You're listening to the Mindset Mentor. My special guest today is John Walter. He is the creator of the first optically perfect non-reversing mirror. And my goodness, I mean, there's so much science there, but it's really fascinating to see the difference of looking at yourself in a regular mirror, which is a reversing mirror, to John's true mirror. It's a way to get a true reflection of the self and how other people see you as well. So stay with us and we're going to continue the conversation. Well, hello and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. We are helping with your self image today and maybe helping to shift how you see yourself. And did you know that when you look in a mirror, a regular mirror, most mirrors are reverse mirrors. So you're looking at yourself flipped. Right. And that's kind of interesting because I think sometimes we live life upside down in the chaos. And so, what would it feel like when you actually would see yourself upright, facing correctly, and just how others see you? Well, that's what we're
Mhm.
talking about here today with my special guest, John Walter. He is the founder of the first optically accurate non reversing mirror, so that when we look at our image, we actually see ourself, our true, authentic self, the way that others see us, not in the reverse. So, John, such a fascinating concept, and I know that you've been on a mission, around the world. You're right now. You're joining me from New York. We had the pleasure of meeting in Toronto on your last visit here, where I was able to experience the true mirror for the very first time. And I gotta tell you, I loved it. It's brilliant. I before I had experienced the true mirror, John, I saw it on I believe it was like social media somewhere, and I thought, oh, that's really fascinating. I have to make sure that I check out your website, which is what it's truemirror.com. Is that the site?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then things happened and I experienced the true mirror when you were here in Toronto, and it's a game changer. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about, some of the benefits, even like personally for you, that you
Mhm.
have experienced by seeing yourself authentically in the true mirror as you now have intended. But also, if you can give us some examples of things that you've seen from the let's say breakthroughs that people have experienced.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Um, so I think the biggest thing I got within that first 5 minutes of seeing it, 41 years ago, um, I was okay. Like there's nothing wrong with me, and that was just so huge.
Yeah.
I still have my issues in terms of how, my fears and my behaviors and my not reaching my full potential. Those are all things I can work with, but at the core of my being is that I realized and still realize I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me, you know. And that was huge. So
Mhm.
that was a huge benefit in the practical sense. You can certainly use the true mirror to see which way you want to part your hair. Again, you're wearing a left part, but in the mirror it looks like a right, and you choosing usually based on what you like, and yet you're not presenting what you like to the world. So maybe you want to put your hair on the right side.
Hmm.
And if you want to Google hair part theory, there's a whole story about that. And let's just not go there right now.
That'll be another
Um,
show, John. We'll do
it'll
another
be
show
another
on
show. Yes. And
that.
as part of the story is that what it actually predated my discovery of the true mirror.
Hmm.
I wanted to mention first off that the idea of understanding how I am as an expressive human being is a big part of this. When you look at yourself in the mirror, very often your expressions just fade, or you have a very limited range. Your positive expressions, the one with that light, kind of the light goes out and you stop doing them. But your negative expressions stick around. Like frowns look just as frowny backwards as
Hmm.
forwards. In fact, at some level they deepen, okay? Because then you get tinged with like criticism and judgment about, like look at how miserable you are, and and so you have none of your positive expressions and all of your negative ones, um, or neutral, like you're just staring at yourself and then picking apart your face for all you're just seeing yourself as a physical. So at a benefit level, you get to see how you actually animate yourself, which then helps you when you're facing the world. What am I looking like to the world? Okay. Um, because that is a huge superpower we all have. It's like way more than just what my face is looking like, is what am I doing with it? How am I being forceful? How am I being engaging? How am I showing up? Why would someone like me? Why would someone listen to me?
Hmm.
Um, so a couple of things I wanted to say on Zoom, you can unmirror your image. Okay. So when I'm looking at you, I'm seeing you with the left part. But right now on your little video, are you seeing yourself mirrored?
Yes.
Like you're seeing a right part? So the thing is, you can go to your video settings and unmirror that. And the reason you would do that, first of all, you can kind of get a sense of what you look like. You can't make eye contact, and that's the biggest difference in the true mirror. Is you can connect and be present with yourself, being present with yourself, being present. You can get that really vital connection. But in the Zoom thing, if you're glancing over at your picture as you're communicating, you will see your natural expressions because we're doing that with each other. But because it's not backwards, there it's more continuous. So you can actually get more used to how you're actually communicating just with this little Zoom trick you can do. And so in theory, when you're actually talking with people, you're glancing over to your own face won't be as discontinuous. Do you know what I mean? It won't have that shift to my reversed self-image that's kind of doing its little number back here. You just be, okay, this is just me being me being me. So that's number one. And again, it comes back to you can see what you look like unreversed by using a camera. Someone takes a video of you, you see what it is, but you
Hmm.
don't have the interactivity. Like the lens does not interact. So most times you're posed or someone takes a picture, hey, that's my smile, and it's not really that full animated, real genuine smile. But also, even if a video, you go and people complain on social media, the inverted filter, which shows you actually not inverted, people hate it because all they see is the weird, this looks different, it feels crooked, but they can't look in their eyes and connect, which is where the value comes from.
Well, because it's not in real time, right? So,
Right.
well, you're not viewing it in real time when you're viewing yourself in a video, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
versus experiencing yourself in a true mirror,
Yes.
you're in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, right? In that
Mm-hmm.
present moment. I think that's a lot of magic happens in the present in life when we can get present to
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. There's no time like the present.
Yeah, for sure. This is really fascinating. And, I just wanted to go back briefly to, I had mentioned there was a woman, in my group who, when I first tried the True Mirror and I was explaining how we all had a conversation and she was saying, well, how long did you guys spend in front of that mirror? Well, she did go back the next day. And it was also interesting because, I made her go back and then she was looking at the mirror and she would turn to me and she would shake her head. She's like, nope, nothing. Like, nope,
Yeah.
nothing, and I said, go back, and she went back and she spent a little bit longer and then she turned around and she nodded and she was like, I got it. And you could see like her
Oh,
entire body changed, her physiology changed because she
mhm.
did get it, right? She saw
Yeah, yeah,
herself
yeah,
and connected with herself. And I'm not talking about like, 30 minutes or anything, just a few minutes, right? But it was really fascinating to see that. And I was actually, I had a little proud moment. I was like, oh my God, wow. And she was so
uh,
grateful and was thanking me. So I can't even imagine for you, John, how fulfilling it is to be
yeah,
able to bring people to those experiences and beyond.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've probably done it about 30,000 times, I think, over 30
Wow.
years. But it's even more fulfilling and gratifying to hear you doing it and the other coaches that were there. I mean, to me, I'm only one person, and but to have other people, really guide people through their experience, because everyone needs it, and some people
Hmm.
more than. Sometimes also, if you stand next to them and make eye contact,
Hmm.
that's when they actually start to animate. But I want to tell you the story. It was at Burning Man.
Hmm.
You're familiar with Burning
Yeah.
Man, or maybe your
Hmm.
audience. It's a
Hmm.
big festival in the
Hmm.
desert, and a woman came in. She's probably in her mid 20s. She was maybe 20 pounds over her ideal weight for her, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and she's almost 6 foot tall. She was a very big, uh, large woman, but after she got the whole, saw where the switch was, she started jumping up and down, okay, and going, "This makes me so happy." It was like,
Oh.
why? What's going on? And she goes, "I just don't get it. Like back at camp and generally all the time in my life, guys hit on me all the time. They're always like trying to like, be my friend, this and that. And why? Like she had no clue, because when we looked at herself backwards, she looked like a frumpy, middle-aged, blah human being, like a housewife or something. I mean, again, not to disparage housewives, but just but in real life, she was like this firecracker. She had such a sparkling energy. Like within 5 seconds, you loved her. Of course, look how beautiful you are. You're amazing. And so she got to see that and to be able to actually connect and be in love with herself,
Mm.
and this is the idea, is like suddenly the way she related, or the way the world was relating to her, made sense. You know what I mean? And we talk about body dysmorphia. I mean, there's so many, especially women, have so much like negative self-image about their bodies, and to me it's partially because you're not animating it. If, like you said, even her physiology changed when she actually started to show up, and like instead of just this kind of face and body, it was suddenly a being. And so when you get to see your being coming through your body and how it animates it, it's an entirely different picture. And I think that my goal is that this will absolutely help with body dysmorphic disorder.
Hmm.
um, Even though that if you take away the disorder part of it, where it's become an obsessive thing, it's body dysmorphia for everyone. Like it's dysmorphic by definition. You've changed, you've morphed over it into something other than what's real. So that's part of my vision for this, is that it kind of fixes a lot of that like weird stuff that's embedded deep in our psyche, where we just see this blah version of us versus the actual true animated version, which is
Oh,
so much better.
I love that, where we can actually see our authentic, magnificent being, our whole selves,
Yeah.
without the judgment, without
Hmm.
the belief that there's something wrong with us. So if you're
Yeah.
listening right now, let's be very clear. There is nothing wrong with you.
Right.
We go through life with that belief, and it really, my goodness, it creates so many barriers. So I love your mission, John. And unfortunately, we're out of time. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on the Mindset Mentor. And again, just very quickly, if you can let everyone know how they can get in touch with you.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks so much for having me. So, truemirror.com, and go to my social media, which is at True Mirror Co, or just True Mirror. You'll pop up and you see hundreds of videos of people going, I love this.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, thank you for shedding some light on our true, authentic selves, John. And again, please follow John Walter and learn more about the true mirror. Stay with us and stay tuned for the next Mindset Mentor every Thursdays at 3 p.m. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you live your best life.
Thank you.